At the big celebration dinner, my girl showed up with her first love. Right in the heat of the moment, the confused crowd went wild asking them to kiss. My buddy sent me the video and it was blowing up online. I was oddly chill about it, even found it kind of funny. I left a comment saying, "Finally, after sneaking around for years, they're bold enough to kiss in public. Props." Last week marked my dad's first birthday since getting out of the hospital, and I made sure to invite Lily to dinner. But guess what? We waited until the food was cold, and she never showed. It wasn't until I checked Ryan's WeChat that I saw Lily had rushed to the hospital to help him out after a simple sneeze. I called her out, but she was totally indifferent. "Your dad's fine now, and I'm not even part of your family. I'd just be in the way." We went silent for a few days. Then, out of the blue, Lily texted me asking me to come to her company's celebration dinner the next day. It was her subtle way of saying peace. Again and again, we'd argue and make up. All because of Ryan. Ever since Ryan came back to town, he's been pulling the strings in our relationship. Whether things are good or bad depends on Lily's mood, which is all about Ryan. I felt like just another pawn in their emotional game. But when I saw her message yesterday, I didn't feel happy. I was just worn out. Something big had happened, but maybe it was for the best. I could finally reclaim my heart instead of letting someone who didn't appreciate it drain me. I replied coolly, "Got it," and went back to work. I'd been let down too many times. After work today, I got ready but didn't bother changing into a suit. I showed up at the banquet hotel right on time, but without an invite, I couldn't get in. Tried calling Lily, but she didn't pick up, and my messages went straight to voicemail. So, I stood at the entrance, watching the fancy guests come and go, feeling like a total loser left out in the cold. After 10 missed calls, I just turned and left. The place was packed, and getting a cab was impossible, so I decided to walk home. I hummed a tune, enjoying the peaceful stroll. When I finally got back, I saw the video my friend had sent me. In the video, a stunning couple, looking perfect together, shared a passionate kiss amid the cheers of the crowd. The caption read, "Main stars of the banquet, Lily and her date." It was already trending locally, with people commenting that they were a match made in heaven. Strangely, when I watched the video, I felt a weird calmness. There was even a sense of relief that they were together. Otherwise, my freshly healed heart might have broken again. I typed a few words under the video, but they were quickly buried by a flood of comments. Lily and her new BAE can finally be open about it. Respect and congrats. After a shower, I went straight to bed. I didn't bother with the online rumors or ask Lily why she didn't invite me. It didn't matter anymore. In the middle of the night, half asleep, I heard Lily stumbling back, clearly drunk. Her heavy footsteps echoed through the house. For the first time, I didn't get up to help her or make her some hangover soup. Smelling the alcohol on her breath, I frowned. When I stopped seeing Lily through rose-colored glasses, I realized she was pretty annoying. She didn't turn away for a long time. "I need some hangover soup," she mumbled, complaining, but I stayed in bed. No hangover soup was worth getting up for anymore. I used to wait at home like a housewife, hoping Lily would see someone waiting for her, but all I got was her cold indifference and disdain. Even that soup often ended up spilled during our heated arguments, staining the carefully chosen carpet. She always stood tall, watching my emotional outbursts with superiority before stabbing me in the heart. If I really had something with Ryan, why was I still with her? Eventually, she stopped explaining and just watched me unravel like a madman, falling apart and piecing myself back together, only for her to step all over me again once I found some balance. I got used to it, but looking back, a grown man acting like this was pretty pathetic. Even thinking about it is embarrassing. Seeing I wasn't responding, she pushed me again. I kept pretending to sleep, not moving a muscle. Finally, she gave up. She clattered around the house, taking off her makeup and showering loudly. By the time I woke up again, it was already 10 in the morning. Surprisingly, Lily was still asleep, her face buried in the covers. Strangely, she wasn't out with Ryan today. After a simple brunch, I sat on the couch, rewatching yesterday's video. I watched them kiss and dance together on loop, at least 10 times, down to the details of the Rolex Ryan was wearing last night. The latest model. A gift from Lily for no reason at all, just because she felt like it. It was so different from the Lily who had always been so stingy with gifts for my dad when he was in the hospital. At 1 p.m., Lily finally got up. She looked at the empty dining table, confused why I hadn't cooked for her as usual. "Why didn't you come yesterday?" she asked, scrolling through her phone next to me. "You didn't invite me. They don't know me." "How would I have gotten in?" I joked. Lily had worked her way up to vice president at her company, yet none of her colleagues knew who her boyfriend was. Some even thought she was a wealthy single woman. I used to get upset about it, but she always brushed me off with a patronizing tone. "I work to make money, not to flaunt my relationship. Can you stop interfering with my work?" It wasn't until yesterday I realized it wasn't that she didn't want to introduce her boyfriend. It was just that the title of boyfriend could only belong to Ryan. "Why didn't you call?" she asked. I smiled and pointed to her phone's missed calls. It was probably packed with my calls by now. "Well, since you didn't show up, I ran into Ryan and had him stand in for you." I nodded, saying nothing. I knew exactly what kind of person Ryan was. He did it on purpose. Great. After all, he's way better looking than me. A perfect fit for your date. No arguments. Lily's eyes widened like she didn't recognize me. "Are you mad? I told you nothing's going on between us." I quickly responded. "If you two could be together, you'd already be, and I'd be out of the picture." I interrupted her, shrugging. "I'm working overtime today, so I won't be home for dinner." When I got back from overtime, the house was empty. Sure enough, Lily had started another round of silent treatment. Honestly, the Cold War was pointless. I used to brainstorm all kinds of little surprises to make peace with Lily, killing all my brain cells in the process. Now, I actually felt a huge sense of relief. I didn't have to wait up for Lily to come home at night or worry if she was out getting drunk. In the mornings, I didn't have to detour around 3 streets just to drop her off at work, leaving the house half an hour early. I didn't even have to keep an eye on my phone during work, waiting to see if Lily would text me back or worry about whether she was with Ryan. None of it was my concern anymore, letting me focus on myself. I now had more time to do my own things. I could unapologetically play games with my buddies or grab a late-night snack with colleagues at a BBQ joint. Even when I worked overtime, I felt more energized, watching colleagues who joined after me rise to leadership roles. I felt ashamed of how little I'd achieved. I'd been coasting along ever since Lily said, "As long as one of us can earn money, that's enough." I gave up on my career without hesitation. Every day, I'd come home early so Lily could have a hot meal waiting for her, even though she barely ate at home due to her social commitments. I kept at it for years, day in and day out. I guess I was always blinded by love. Now that I'd broken free from this toxic cycle, I realized how wrong I was. Maybe there's no such thing as first come, first served in love. But the person who's not loved definitely loses. Lily never even bothered to visit my dad when he was sick, yet she was willing to make ginger soup for Ryan when he sneezed. I ruined my own career for this woman, and now I've got nothing to show for it. Even my once proud relationship has become a laughingstock to others. I guess I should be thankful to the person who filmed that video. If it hadn't been for that video, I wouldn't have seen things clearly and made up my mind. Who knows how much longer I'd have been stuck in this emotional whirlpool, unable to escape. The ambition of the younger generation rubbed off on me. It was time to take the next step in my life. The first step was throwing away my dignity for Lily. The second would be reclaiming it, piece by piece. I started taking my job more seriously, even staying late to work overtime voluntarily. I prepared for all kinds of exams and evaluations, pushing myself to new limits. In this era of slackers, I quickly stood out. My colleagues constantly joked that I'd become a workaholic. For some reason, their banter was way more fun than Lily's arguments ever were. These past few days, Lily was still giving me the cold shoulder and barely being home. That was fine by me. Otherwise, I wouldn't know how to explain my sudden workaholic transformation to her. In her world, She was always the most important. When the Cold War ended, I was sure I'd have to go back to being the servant, catering to the spoiled princess. God, let this Cold War drag on a bit longer, at least for now. I was living a freedom I hadn't felt in ages. During a break in the meeting, I stepped out with a colleague for a smoke. Out of nowhere, Lily sent me a message but quickly took it back. I knew it was one of her tricks, pretending to send the wrong message and then retracting it to grab my attention. Unfortunately for her, that tactic only worked when we were still flirting. Back then, I'd have gotten jealous, thinking she was trying to catch my eye. But now, I just figured Lily had really sent it by mistake. I deleted the conversation, erasing years of memories with it. After work, I got a call from Lily. "I'll pick you up after work." She didn't ask, she commanded, leaving no room for refusal. I guessed she knew my car was restricted today and that I hadn't driven. My first reaction was to resist. "No need. I'll just take the subway. It's more eco-friendly." My refusal earned a sarcastic laugh from Lily. She said she'd be waiting downstairs, then hung up. With no other choice, I slung my bag over my shoulder and waited downstairs for her. An hour passed with no sign of Lily. Then my phone rang. It was her. "You haven't come down yet." I explained I'd been standing at the entrance the whole time. But she said she'd been waiting for me for a while. Her silence told me she was about to get angry. "Aren't you at Panda Tower?" A smirk crossed my face. Panda Tower is Ryan's company, not mine. Ha! I knew I shouldn't have trusted Lily. It was just more proof of my place in her heart. "I'll take the subway. Don't bother coming here." I hung up before she could say anything else. It was the first time I'd ever hung up on her, and it felt great. By the time I got home, Lily was already sitting on the couch waiting for me. A rare sight, considering she always had a million excuses not to come home. Uh, Dinner with coworkers today? Camping with friends tomorrow? And somehow, Ryan's shadow always seemed to be there in the background. "Kevin, you're back." "I didn't mean it today. I was trying to surprise you. But there in the background, Kevin, you're back." "I didn't mean it today. I was trying to surprise you, but I messed it up." I knew she didn't mean it. She didn't care. I get it now. "You're not mad, right?" She studied my expression, trying to gauge my mood. I shook my head and grabbed some ingredients from the fridge to make a meal for one. It had been a while since I cooked, and my skills were rusty. Seeing me prepare food only for myself confirmed in her mind that I was upset. "You're not even cooking for me anymore. If you're not mad, then what? Why are you always like this? I've already apologized. Isn't that enough?" Classic Lily. She was good at reading people, but never took responsibility for her own actions. It was partly my fault too, back in the day. I could have gotten angry by now, dredging up old grievances and demanding we settle them. Whenever that happened, she'd find my weak spot and hit me with the same line. If Ryan and I could be together, we'd already be. It was laughable how much I hated that line. "There's nothing else in the fridge. You'll just have to make do," I said. In truth, I couldn't be bothered to cook for her. Countless times I'd made dinner and waited for her at home, reheating the food over and over, but she never showed. When I complained about her wasting food, she always brushed me off. "How much can a few dishes cost? Can you stop making a fuss over nothing?" Yeah, just like the food, my efforts were worthless to her. I thought Lily would take the hint and leave me alone, or at least give me the silent treatment a bit longer. I welcomed that, honestly. But to my surprise, the next day at noon, she messaged me again. "I'll meet you at your office. I've got a meeting nearby and can give you a ride." Really? I glanced at my car parked outside. Does she know how expensive overnight parking is around here? I was about to refuse, but then I thought better of it. Maybe this was a good chance to lay everything out and settle things with Lily once and for all. End it cleanly. And she could be with Ryan without any delay. After work, I headed downstairs with my bag. This time, Lily didn't go to the wrong place, but she brought along an unwelcome guest. Ryan, to be honest. It had been a long time since we'd met in such a formal setting usually. When Ryan dropped Lily off at home, he took his place in the passenger seat, and Lily honked the horn from the driver's side as if asking why I wasn't getting in the car yet. I laughed in disbelief, then opened the back door and got in. Hey, with someone else driving, why not enjoy the ride? I heard the passenger seat has the highest fatality rate in accidents anyway, so no thanks. As my thoughts wandered, I remembered the first time I met Ryan. Our friends threw him a welcome party, and it happened to be at the same place where we were having a team building event. I'd had a few drinks, and after the event, I wanted to go home with Lily. But I saw the two of them drinking from the same glass in response to our mutual friend's teasing. Someone even asked Lily, "When are you going to break up with that guy?" Ryan stood right in front of her, smiling at Lily with his typical calm and charming demeanor. Lily didn't say anything. She just shook her head. That's when I realized Ryan was the long-lost first love buried deep in Lily's heart. That's why I couldn't help but compare myself to Ryan. But now I'd long since stopped caring about that. Comparing ourselves to others. What's the point? Lily, there's an art exhibition this weekend. Why don't you come with me? Ryan's voice broke the awkward silence in the car. For some reason, Lily didn't immediately agree. She glanced at me through the rearview mirror, watching my reaction. Ryan wouldn't be that petty, would he? Keeping you cooped up at home all weekend like some kind of housewife. Ryan's mocking tone came through. He never thought much of me. I shrugged. Do whatever you want. I've got overtime this weekend. Anyway. Go enjoy yourselves. Just try not to let another video go viral this time. It's not a good look, I said pointedly, earning a confused look from Lily. A video? What video? Her confusion seemed genuine, but I didn't care to explain. Why bother causing more trouble for myself? Ryan quickly shifted the conversation back to the art exhibit, and I knew this whole thing was part of his plan. But as long as Lily doesn't officially break up with me, Ryan has to stay on the sidelines. I'd intended to clear things up today, but now I found it amusing to let Ryan play the third wheel a bit longer. I stopped talking and focused on saving all the trending videos from yesterday. They were solid evidence. Evidence of Lily's infidelity. Thinking of that, I couldn't help but feel a pang of regret about the parking fees. Listening to the two of them chat, I slowly drifted off to sleep. When I woke up, we were already home. I stretched lazily and followed Lily upstairs. Silence hung between us, but I found comfort in it. "You're working overtime this weekend?" she suddenly asked, catching me off guard. "Yeah," I replied. "Going to the office to read counts as overtime, doesn't it?" "Today I picked up some things with Ryan. I specifically came to pick you up after work," she hurriedly explained. But her words held no weight with me. Ryan's family isn't short of money. What could he possibly need Lily to buy for him? Maybe she's just playing the simp again, following him around like a loyal dog. As I thought about it, I chuckled bitterly. Haven't I been Lily's dog all along, too? Only now this dog has finally wised up. It's time to turn my back on her. I mumbled some half-hearted responses and prepared to shower and sleep. Later that night, Lily pressed herself against me, sending a shiver down my spine. But I didn't move. My heart was as calm as still water. The next day, to my surprise, Lily was downstairs again. "Lucas and the others want to meet up today. They insisted I bring you along," she said. I glanced at her, speechless, while thinking about my expensive parking fees. I held back for a while, but finally, I spoke. "I'll drive. You lead the way. Just make sure to follow me, okay?" She urged, worried that I might back out. Why would I? Lucas was the one who sent me that video. He was also the one who encouraged Lily to break up with me. They all grew up together, childhood friends. Everyone thought Lily and Ryan were meant to be together, destined for each other for reasons unknown. When Ryan left the country, Lily ended up dating me. The clueless fool. We'd been together for years now. But since Ryan came back, the whole group has been hanging out like they did when they were kids. Lucas has told me countless times about how great their relationship was, how their family supported it, how they were a perfect match. Whenever I heard that, I'd go crazy running to question Lily, only to get the same response. If we could be together, we'd already be. What's it got to do with you? It was a vicious cycle. reopening my healing wounds and watching them slowly fester. But luckily, I'm like a cockroach. Hard to kill. I cut out the rotten parts and stitched up the wounds myself. I'm moving on. I accepted Lily's invitation. After all, I was curious to see what kind of drama this dinner would bring. We stood at Lucas's door, and before I could even ring the doorbell, the door opened. Streams of confetti rained down, and Ryan stepped forward holding a bouquet of roses, handing them to Lily. Lily, today marks the 15th anniversary of us knowing each other. When you confessed to me back then, I didn't respond because I wanted to give you a better life, so you'd never have to worry, so you wouldn't have to work so hard. Now I have the means to make you happy. I think it's time to give you my answer. I want to be with you. Their mutual friends cheered and egged them on without restraint. Lucas chimed in. Ryan gave up a high-paying job overseas and rushed back for Lily. Lily, it's time to get things back on track. We're all waiting for the wedding. The atmosphere was so harmonious that even I, the so-called official boyfriend, couldn't help but applaud. Clap, clap, clap. It was only then that people seemed to realize I was there. The crowd fell silent, except for Lucas, who was clearly drunk. Kevin, you've got the nerve to show up. If you're a real man, you'll be smart enough to give Lily back to Ryan. Haven't you figured it out yet after all these years? Sure. My tone was light and playful. Ryan, congrats on getting what you've always wanted. The third wheel is finally getting promoted to the main act. Lily turned to me in disbelief, as if she didn't recognize me. I shrugged. Did I say something wrong, Kevin? You can't talk about Lily like that. Ryan snapped. Seeing that Lily hadn't responded, a flash of dissatisfaction crossed Ryan's face before he redirected his anger toward me. I'm just trying to give us closure for the past. You don't have to be so harsh. Closure? I wasn't sure what kind of closure involves forcing a confession in front of someone's boyfriend. Maybe this is just how rich people entertain themselves. The people around us started taking sides, criticizing me as if I shouldn't have been there in the first place. Enough. Lily tossed the flowers to Lucas and, with a blank expression, walked over to my side. Kevin is my boyfriend, and I'm the one who asked him to come. If you have any complaints, direct them at me. Wow. She suddenly remembered to stand up for me. Lily must be going through something because in the past, whenever her friends made fun of me, she'd stand there like a Victoria statue watching me take the hits. If you asked her about it, she'd say, "They're just friends. You're a man. What's a few words? Why take it so seriously?" Now that I'd lost all hope, she decided to defend me. But it was too late. People often try to prove their place in someone's heart by testing their emotions again and again. The more emotional the reaction, the more important they feel their place is. Eventually, I realized Lily wasn't emotionally numb. She had simply channeled all her attention toward Ryan. Lily, don't get me wrong. I'm just trying to make up for what I couldn't do before. If you're upset, I'll apologize to Ryan on behalf of everyone. I'm sure Ryan won't hold a grudge. Right. Ryan was smart, diffusing the situation by taking all the blame himself. A clever diversion. Lily's face showed hesitation as she glanced between me and the crowd around us. I won't hold a grudge. After all, I didn't say anything when your kissing video went viral. It's just a confession. I'm not that petty. Don't worry, I said casually. A video? What video? Lily was still confused, but the mention of the kiss seemed to jog her memory. I pulled up the video on my phone. To be honest, it was Lucas who sent it to me. Otherwise, I wouldn't have known, as I showed the trending video of them kissing. Lily's face flushed, alternating between pale and red. Love doesn't disappear in an instant. Humiliating Lily in front of a crowd wasn't my intention, so I chose to walk away, sitting in my car. Memories of me and Lily flooded my mind. It felt like everything evaporated with today's confrontation. My phone kept ringing, but I silenced it and drove home. At home, my dad had been out of the hospital for a while now, and I still hadn't visited him. As for Lily and me, we'd talk once she calmed down. By the next time I saw her, she might already be Ryan's girlfriend. The next morning, as soon as I stepped out of the house, I saw Lily waiting downstairs. The rising sun cast a soft glow on her delicate face, even making her weariness seem perfectly aligned with the scene. "Kevin, you're finally out," she said, hurrying to match my steps. "You weren't answering my calls, and you haven't been home. I didn't know how else to reach you. I don't even have your parents' numbers. I've been waiting for you." That's right. 5 years together with Lily, and she still didn't have my parents' contact info. She hesitated to even visit my dad in the hospital, yet she never forgot to send gifts to Ryan's parents for every holiday. I had originally planned to use this chance to introduce her to my parents, but now it seemed unnecessary. Seeing my silence, she anxiously continued, "I really don't know how that video got out. I've already contacted the uploader to get it taken down. We were just playing a game back then, and I didn't want to embarrass Ryan in front of everyone. This was my fault. I swear it won't happen again. Kevin, it won't happen again." Lily had said that many times. After getting drunk with Ryan, after spending a night together because I couldn't reach her, after staying over at Ryan's place to take care of him, she'd always snap. "I told you it won't happen again. What more do you want?" She was the one who kept making promises only to break them. "I'll stay at my place for now. Let's both take some time to think things over," I said, ignoring her hollow promises. I got in the car and drove to work. During lunch, Lily sent me a message but quickly retracted it. This time, she sent a picture right after, a travel plan she had made. I replied with a question mark, not understanding her intent. Was she really showing me her travel plans with Ryan? "You said you've always wanted to visit the capital." "Right, I've made all the arrangements. Let's go together." We'd talked about going on a trip so many times. I'd worried she was too busy, so I made all the plans. All she had to do was follow me. Every time she'd say she was too busy. Busy having dinners with Ryan, busy stargazing with Ryan, busy attending events with Ryan. There was never time to travel with me. Too bad I deleted our previous chats. Otherwise, I could have revisited the countless times I played the fool. Usually, my long messages would only get brief replies. Sometimes it was just me talking to myself. At first, I'd tell myself she was just busy with work and didn't have time for me. Eventually, I got used to it, even treating our chat as her daily reminder not to forget to eat. In love, the one who loves more is the one who loses. But I liked her. So what could I do? Now I realize that sometimes the best outcome between people is to not disturb each other. I casually skimmed through her travel itinerary and set it aside. She hadn't even remembered that I'm allergic to chicken. And yet, she had enthusiastically highlighted the first stop, roasted chicken in the capital. The weekend finally arrived. My colleagues had been pestering me to treat them, celebrating my promotion to team leader. I grinned and, with a wave of my hand, declared that today's bill was on me. I must admit, not planning for a wedding had really loosened up my spending. I used to live so frugally, saving every penny to marry Lily. Even when coworkers wanted to split a coffee, they'd automatically skip asking me. They knew I'd refuse. After a while, they stopped inviting me to group activities altogether. Meanwhile, Lily spent money like water, all for Ryan's happiness. Luxury watches, high-end goods. She'd buy them without blinking, even dipping into our house savings without hesitation. I tried to advise her to be more mindful of her spending, but she'd snap back. "Most of that money was earned by me anyway. I can always earn it back later." Eventually, I stopped bringing it up. Now I was genuinely grateful that I had time for myself again. With arms around each other's shoulders, we headed to a BBQ joint, which was apparently our company's hidden gem. Big portions, great flavor, and affordable. Just as I was raising my glass to celebrate, Lily called. "Kevin, are you coming home tonight? I bought a bunch of your favorite dishes. It's been so long since we've had dinner together." I thought about Lily's disastrous cooking skills. If we ate, I'd probably have to do the cooking myself. "No need, you eat by yourself. I'm eating out," I replied. Just then, one of my female colleagues shouted for everyone to raise a toast to me. Lily's voice suddenly grew sharp. "Who's that? Why are there women's voices?" I sighed and explained, "I'm at a dinner. Isn't it normal to have female coworkers?" "Don't be so paranoid." Every time I found out Lily was with Ryan, she'd say the same thing. "We're just hanging out with a group. It's perfectly normal for there to be guys. Don't be so paranoid. Now, I finally had the chance to throw that line back at her. After hanging up, I went back to enjoying the food. I had to admit, the grilled skewers at this place were delicious. Throughout the evening, Lily sent me a few messages saying she was worried about me driving home after drinking and offering to come pick me up. I ignored her and made plans with my colleagues for another round. When I didn't reply, she called again, determined not to give up until I answered. "What's your deal, princess? I'm worried about you. Just give me a chance to apologize." "Okay." She paused before finally getting the words out. Hearing an apology from Lily was like seeing a different person entirely. She always prided herself on being a strong, independent woman, someone who bled, sweat, but never cried. She never admitted her mistakes or apologized. When I loved her, that was her filter of strength. When I no longer loved her, it just seemed crazy. I sent her my location, but purposely didn't mention when we'd be done. By the time we stumbled out, drunk and unsteady, Lily was already waiting at the door. "How did you drink this much?" She tried to help me into her car, but I waved her off, staggering toward my own. Even drunk, I didn't forget how expensive the parking fees were here. Lily bit her lip, but eventually followed me. "I want to go home," I mumbled from the passenger seat, watching as Lily drove us back. "This isn't my home. I want to go to my own house." When we got to her place, I refused to go upstairs, insisting on going back to my parents' house. That sneaky woman. She tricked me. She had ulterior motives. Lily, now unusually gentle, helped me upstairs and put me to bed. Before leaving, she pressed a soft kiss to my forehead. I opened my eyes, fully alert. Touching the spot where her kiss had landed, I felt an eerie sense of calm wash over me. To avoid running into Lily, I got up before dawn. I didn't expect to find her sleeping on the couch. I tiptoed over and gently covered her with a blanket, but it woke her up. "Kevin, you're awake. I'll make you some hangover soup." She mumbled sleepily, her voice soft, lacking the authority she always carried at work. "No need, just go back to bed and rest," I said, then hurried out the door. Surprisingly, Lily didn't go to the art exhibition with Ryan. Instead, she brought me a lunchbox and left it at the office front desk, afraid I'd refuse to see her. From that point on, Lily seemed like a completely different person. She stopped hanging out with Lucas and their group, and even turned down invitations from Ryan. Every day, she delivered lunch to me, reminding me to eat well. Even when I went out with colleagues, she'd show up at the restaurant to pick me up afterward. I had no idea what her game was, but with a new project keeping me busy, I let her be. So Lily started hurrying home every day to cook for me. Some of her friends messaged her, teasing that she must be preparing to settle down with Ryan and become a housewife. I happened to be sitting next to her when she received one of those messages. The voice note played loud and clear. Lily fumbled to close the message, but accidentally turned up the volume instead. Expressionless, I sat next to her, reviewing a work proposal, feeling utterly calm inside. I wasn't going to foolishly open my heart again just because of Lily's sudden change. And I was right not to. I overheard her messaging back, and she even posted a picture of us together in her moments. Noticing my frown, she hurried to show me her post, thinking I was upset about it. Truth was, I was only frowning because of a minor mistake in the proposal. She showed me the picture she had posted in her moments. It was from our 5-year anniversary, taken at a studio where I dragged her to get some photos. That day, she had been unusually cheerful, constantly smiling. I thought it was because she was excited about my proposal plan. It wasn't until later that I realized it was because she'd received a message from Ryan, telling her that her first love was about to return to the country. Thinking back now, that happiness was real. But beautiful moments are fleeting, and 5 years passed in the blink of an eye. "The company just called me in for overtime." "You'll have to eat alone," I said. I needed to head back and fix this proposal, which could be my stepping stone to a promotion, ignoring Lily's hesitant look and the soup she had painstakingly made. I left the house. She didn't need me as a dinner guest anyway. Who would have thought that after finishing my overtime, I'd find Lily waiting for me outside my office again? I rubbed my eyes, thinking I was seeing things. I had expected her to throw a fit after how I'd brushed her off and a cold war to inevitably follow. But there she was, waiting to pick me up from work, her face flushed from the cold wind. At that moment, I finally made a decision. Even though I didn't love her anymore, the Lily I remembered had been a bright, confident girl full of sunshine. For my own sake, I didn't want to see her reduced to this pitiful state. Besides, I knew there was no going back for us. "Let's talk," I said, walking toward her and watching as her expression shifted from surprise to fear. Without a word, she got in her car and drove away. I scratched my head and decided to head to my parents' house instead. We both knew there was an insurmountable gap between us. Dragging things out wouldn't fix anything. I didn't expect Lily to be this patient, avoiding me bringing up a breakup. She initiated another Cold War. This time, neither of us was willing to back down. Just when I was stewing in my own thoughts, my dad called me into his room to talk. Life isn't all about love sometimes. Letting go now might be the best way to meet again under better circumstances. Right now, you're both too stubborn, and it's only hurting you. When my parents first learned I was with Lily, they were happy for me. They'd heard me mention her name many times and were delighted at the prospect of us getting married. They'd even urged us to tie the knot, but I kept brushing them off. I took on all the pressure myself, just to spare Lily from worrying about such things. I didn't want her to be burdened by these trivial matters. Who would have thought I'd never get the chance to say these things? Just as I stepped out of the room, I heard a knock at the door. It was Lily. She walked in, full of energy, carrying health supplements, and greeted my parents with a bright smile. "Uncle, Auntie, it's been so long. I've been busy lately, so I haven't had time to visit. I heard Uncle's recovery has been going well, so I came by to check on him." My parents looked at her in surprise, then glanced at me. They soon excused themselves, leaving us alone in the room. With just the two of us, I dropped my polite demeanor. "Lily, don't you think it's a bit inappropriate to show up unannounced? Uncle's been sick. I came to check on him. Is that so wrong? My dad's already recovered. Now you remember to come see him. Where were you when I asked you to visit earlier?" "I was busy then, but as soon as I had time." "Good. Since you're here, let's have a proper talk." We went to a cafe near the house. I stopped her from ordering anything. "Let's get this over with quickly. I need to head back to work." "Don't you think the way we've been interacting is a bit off? No man can stand his girlfriend being so close with another guy, not to mention even more inappropriate behavior." Ignoring Lily's attempts to explain, I continued. "I really did love you back then, but you shouldn't have taken my love for granted. I'm only human. I get tired too." I sighed, debating whether to keep talking. Lily just sat there, quietly crying. "I know I've been selfish, Kevin. I admit that when Ryan first came back, I was confused. But over time, I've realized that you're the one I truly love. I've told everyone that I'm your girlfriend now, and I told Ryan we won't be hanging out anymore. Can you please give me another chance? I'll change until you love me again." "Okay, Lily, you still don't get it, do you? The problem between us isn't just Ryan. It's that you crossed a line. Without even realizing it, you gave him your heart. I never saw any of the special affection that a girlfriend should have for her boyfriend. If I had a childhood friend and constantly catered to her, would you be happy? And the most painful thing for me was when my dad got sick and wanted to see you, but you ran off to take care of Ryan. Did he really need your care, or were you just avoiding meeting my parents? We should have ended this a long time ago." With that, I left the cafe. As I looked through the car window, I saw Lily sitting there quietly, the sunlight highlighting the tear stains on her face. Maybe this was the first time she'd ever cried for me. I have many memories of Lily crying. Like a little hamster, she'd bury her head in the blankets and silently shed tears, staying that way for more than 5 minutes. There was no doubt she was crying. There were many reasons for her tears: failing an exam, frustrations at work, feeling homesick, or perhaps thoughts of her unrequited love that never came to fruition. She cried after meeting Ryan too, but those were tears of joy. The kind of happiness where it felt like everything was solved just by having her first love by her side. When I stood next to Lily, I used to think to myself, as long as I'm here, I'll never let her shed a single tear for me in this lifetime. In the end, I broke that promise. After talking things through with Lily, I deleted all my connections with Lucas and the others. They were friends I had only gotten to know for Lily's sake, and they never acknowledged me anyway. Finally, I got back on track. My busy schedule kept my mind from wandering to all those messy thoughts. Each day, I worked, studied, and spent time talking to my parents when I got home. There was a strange sense of peace in my life. Lily never reached out to me again, nor did she update her social media. That was for the best. If I saw her again, I might be reminded of my pitiful past as her simp, which I'd rather not relive. Just as I thought my days would continue passing quietly, I ran into her at the hospital. I was there with my dad for a follow-up when I spotted her. Looking around at the entrance, I wanted to pretend I hadn't seen her, but her eyes lit up when she saw me and she jogged over. "Kevin? Uncle? What a coincidence." I wanted to pretend I hadn't seen her, but her eyes lit up when she saw me and she jogged over. "Kevin, Uncle, what a coincidence." She greeted us and naturally took the medical file from my hands. "Was the checkup smooth?" "Uncle, you're recovering well." "Right." She affectionately linked her arm through my dad's and kept glancing back at me. "Kevin, why are you just standing there? Come on, catch up." I was at a loss, watching as she led my dad to the car and headed home the whole way. She had my dad laughing nonstop. I couldn't even figure out how to cut into their conversation. When we got home, my dad asked me to see Lily off properly, seeing her proud, triumphant smile. I fell silent once again. "Lily, you don't have to do this. Really, you don't need to waste your time taking care of my parents. Besides, there's no future for us. Why are you putting yourself through this?" The Lily I remembered always held her head high, never bowing to the world. Even when life was full of ups and downs, she was always full of hope. Even though we've broken up, I don't want you to change who you are. It's not worth it. People should live for their own brilliance, not give up their identity. That's the lesson I learned. I just felt a bit guilty about Uncle and Auntie. I never properly visited them while we were together. "Can't you give me this chance? I just want to make up for lost time." "Is that so wrong? You know my answer." I didn't want to be harsh. Hearing my mom call out for Lily to stay for dinner, I steeled myself, ignoring Lily's hopeful gaze as I closed the door behind her. It was better for both of us to end this sooner. Besides, I really didn't want to drag this out any longer. Recently, the company offered me an assignment abroad. If I did well, I could potentially get promoted by 3 levels. I'd been hesitating. My parents were here, and I didn't want to leave them, especially with my dad getting older. But today, I realized I had no choice but to go. Part of it was to avoid Lily, but I also wanted to challenge myself. After all, I'd been in a slump for too long. It was time to get my life back on track. As always, my family supported my decision to explore new opportunities. So, on a quiet afternoon, I packed my bags and left home. Aside from my parents, I didn't tell anyone. Lily, too, stopped contacting me. But somehow, she kept popping up in conversations with my parents. Lily came by to clean the house today. Lily took your dad to his hospital checkup yesterday. Or, Lily's learned how to cook now. She made a whole table of your favorite dishes for us. I was grateful for everything she did for my parents, but I never reached out to her. There was no trace of Ryan or Lucas in her WeChat moments anymore, just pictures of her arranging flowers and cooking. But it didn't matter. I would never fall for her again. I used to learn how to cook dishes she liked, pestering my mom for tips. I'd get up early to go to the flower market just to buy her the best bouquet, but once we broke up, it meant the end. A year passed in the blink of an eye. I video called my parents and told them I'd met someone here. And I'd bring her home for New Year's. My parents stiffened for a moment, then smiled and agreed. From the corner of the screen, I spotted the edge of Lily's dress. She was wearing the long dress I loved when we first met. I smiled and ended the call. Looks like my parents would soon be back to enjoying their time together. As for a girlfriend, maybe I'd just rent one online when the time came.